First of all, let me say I am truly thankful for you having to just listen to some clips. That's really hard. Um, because you kind of get mixed. Sometimes you get mixed up in like what. Now you ask me what's the mission? Because there's so many things that happen around it. But actually, at Podfest is when somebody actually showed me or told me exactly what kind of a podcast my podcast is. I used to think of it as just like a culture podcast, but somebody said it's more like an anthropology podcast. I take five people, one who's going to be African American, one who's going to be somebody from the diaspora because it's a diaspora podcast, and then I'll get somebody in somewhere around the rest of the world, right? And then somebody in Africa and somebody in Kenya, which doesn't usually happen the same, like the way I like it, but that's usually the main thing. Then we discuss a topic, like take for example any topic, like what are we sipping? If you like coffee, right? Um, so I'll talk to you and you tell me what you like about your coffee here. And then I'll ask an immigrant what they like about their coffee, and then talk to the other people. Then get down to Kenya. Well, most likely they'll be drinking tea. But at the end of it, what I like you to figure out is what's there in common. What's something in common? Do all the five people share? And see, right there, that's a conversation. You got a conversation about food going on, and then people listen to it, and the end they'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay." People eat different foods. Like we all have something in common, all of us. So that's my mission actually, to let you know that we all have something in common. Doesn't matter where we're from, we share the same thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful though, because I think that so many people miss that point that we all of us, any other person on this planet, we probably have more in common with than we have not in common with if we just take the time to talk to them and get to know them.
All these things that I have here, I could just lose, not really lose, but they will just go away. What does it matter? What is life? Is life about clothes? Life about, all the stuff that is around him? And that was very impactful. And I think it made me have a different idea of how I look at life nowadays. I tend to focus more on the brighter things than the material things, and look around and say, you know what, as long as I'm happy and everybody else around me is happy, then we're good. But focusing on this other side shows, I don't. I like to leave a happy family.
Started
When I
giving
have
me
all the rundown upon like how we going to be nice to you, okay? Do you say the F bomb? I'm looking at you again.
He's
I'm like,
telling
are
all
you
our
recording? Because the
secrets.
first thing I expected, I expected when I got first thing is like, your meeting is being recorded, and I'm like,
So
okay, I'm ready. Then the first thing Lisa is here telling me, oh, we want you to be comfortable, be who you are.
wow, I sound like a dork.
um was Buzz.
Okay. It was Sambazaji.
Thank you. And that's Swahili. And what is that Swahili for?
So you see the name is Sambaza, right?
Correct.
Sambaza means to spread. So when you're referring to people who are spreading, you use the word wa in front of it.
Okay.
So when you add the JI, so you're telling the people. So it's like, so let's say Sambaza is fan. So I'm saying my fans.
Okay.
So if you were to look at it, I'm saying my people who spread.
I love that. Okay.
A goat.
Oh, goat.
I grew up in a farm, not in a farm. This is a weird story. I was that young kid that grew up in the city, and when they saw the goat at the first time, I can imagine this when I was young, and they never told me. But some things you kind of get when you get older. You're like, I remember something like this. I saw a goat and I was running away, and I remember the kids in the village were laughing at me or us. We were not used to goats. We lived in the city. So that was my first experience. Then when we got older, we had a farm, and the farm had goats. But what's the most weird thing about goats is they could be like 20 goats, and maybe five goats. The female goats have the kids. And each goat will kind of know its mom out of all these. I want to figure out how you tell just by the way you bleat, and it's like, okay, they all bleat the same sound, but how are you able to tell that's my mom and that's not my mom?
What if all mankind looked alike?
Oh yeah.
Will we have a different world or would it still be the same? Mm. I think it still be the same because mankind as a whole is destructive. But that's
Yeah.
something to think about. Hmm.
I think people would find something else to destroy each other over.
I think we'd be boring. We'd be like ants. Remember that ants movie
Yes.
Yes.
where everybody was dancing the same way, like go like shake, shake. No, and it was like this guy was like, "Nah, we can't all be shaking the same way. Nah, somebody has to see." And that tells you the humankind always has to figure out. They have to identify something different. They want to be different, and I think that's the beauty of being human.
Growing up, I always got that you think you're white. You act like you're white. We're not gonna go into what they meant by that, but I think,
We all know.
we
Yeah,
all know. High school age, I think I got to the point I was like, yeah, no. It bothered me until then. I'm like, no, I'm just great. I love me for who I am. Never mind, we all have our insecurities. That's a different episode. I wasn't black enough for the black people, and I also wasn't black enough for white people because white people thought I should have been blacker. And I want to say this all with quotation marks. So I was like, I wasn't black. I wasn't black enough for anyone at this point. But I totally get the whole not being comfortable in your skin because other people aren't comfortable with themselves and they project that onto you. And the moment you realize that it's projection is when you're like, okay,
Exactly.
it's not about me, it's about you. I don't know, but it's not about me. And once you realize that, everything just becomes smoother. It's
yep.
like you don't hate yourself anymore. You don't hate anyone else. You're just like,
And I think high school is the best part about everything. You discover yourself around that time. What I've learned in the U.S. is that middle school, the seventh, eighth grade, like you're talking about, yeah, that's the worst part of your school age, because I think kids are rediscovering themselves at that time and trying to figure out where they fit in. At high school, just like the way you said, I had to figure out where I want to be at. Do I want to be with a different crew that I want to roll with, or do I want to be with this kind of people I want to roll with? And at one point, I said, you know what? I need to love myself. And this was in high school. I always tell my son about that, and I don't know I don't know how to equate it in his life, but I hope he gets it. Wow, this is one of the best places a podcaster can actually come to, and you have all these people in one place and you talk about your podcast. Everybody's treating you like, you belong. You're a friend. It's a community. You get the same with Afros and Audio podcast. Even though they started off with it's African American, but now they're accepting. I say we because I'm an ambassador, so we're accepting everyone. That's the reason why I have that. The shirt. Um, so it's really more of community and just being a podcaster. And you go whether your podcast is small, you're thinking about getting into podcasting. Everything is just there. People are nice to you. This is my secret. You volunteer, because when you volunteer, people come to you, and depends on where you're where you're going to be posted. People will come to you asking you questions of what you want to do and what have you. And I think with my being able to volunteer, I will go and talk to more people in these spaces. Then when I get to have all these people talking to me, then I maybe like after the conference, I'll sit down and say, okay, which people did I talk to that I had a connection with? And then I'll now say, okay, this seems like a good connection. What are you going to do with this information that I have? If you go back there again next year, those are connections that you've made. And
Right.
you're like, hey, we're here again, blah, 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 blah. You can also meet somebody and you could be a connector to them. You're like, oh, so you're new in podcast. What do you do for your podcast? Oh, then you tell them, hey, you know what? I know somebody who does a show just like you. And if they're close by, say, hey, this person does a show like you do. And or even tell the other person that, oh, there's a person, if you want to meet, they do this particular show. And with that, you'll have created a connection. And then they'll look at you and remember that you're a connector and you're adding your value. Now, depends on what value you want to add to them. So you could be a value of, I'm the connector. And then that's how you probably create bonds of people. And friendships occur like that. So who wants to go first?
Lisa.
Lisa, you want to go first? Okay.
Go.
This is one of my questions that I ask, and people go like, it's supposed to be a random question, fire question. What is the one thing that you will say on this show that Agnes is your friend and will have no idea about? She'd be like, I've known you for all this time, but you don't know this.
I don't know if such a thing exists. I don't know.
There is a secret that she
There
does not
has
know.
to be something. Because there are still things that we have conversations about. I'm like, I didn't know that. She's like, oh, yeah. So I'm sure there's
Yeah, so-
something. I enjoyed our little talk.
Everybody should have flags.
I would have like 100 flags to
Especially
wave.
now, we should all be flying our flags and
I have
being
so
who
many
we
flags
are.
I want to wave.
Agnes's flag would be like a big red flag.
I messed you up.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. You see, this is why we don't fight, because we just say whatever to each other, and
it's funny because it's true.
What is the best place for anyone to find you who wants to just connect with you or listen to your show?
Oh, Sambaza podcast. Just search Sambaza podcast. Anywhere I have audio, I have a video YouTube channel. Right now we run a show on Wednesdays live on a live stream, collaborating with Jane from Woke by Accident, where we have topics we bring in. And that runs every Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. And then I'll have my other shows running here and there. But mostly, if you search Sambaza podcast, you're not going to miss something there. I'm on TikTok, Blue Sky,
Oh, I'm on there.
Threads.
I'm on there too.